Hi there YouTubers, welcome back to my channel, Workshop Fun. Today I'd like to post an info video on the ip43 chargers. There doesn't appear to actually be any on YouTube in English anyway. Now for me, when I went to buy these, it was a hassle because I wanted to know more about these and I couldn't find really any decent reviews in English, and that was quite a hard thing for me because you know, I sort of didn't want to go into my purchase blind, but yeah, anyway, in the end I did a bit of research with the manuals and found out as much as I could. I ended up looking at forums and stuff too and saw some pros and cons, and yet some of the cons are actually quite fixable with the software and how they work with the Cerberus. That was about the only con I could spot with these chargers. Now the ip22 Blue Smart chargers, they get a lot of reviews because I guess they're cheaper and a lot more people are buying them, but yeah, they only go to 30 amps, so they have their limits. They also have a fan built in, so they do have a night mode, but at the same time, yeah, you still can hear the fan whirling away during the day, and if you don't really want to hear that, well, yeah, that's a disadvantage. In saying that though, I actually had a ip22 Blue Smart charger and I had the full spec one. It was the 30 amp. That was a good little charger, but definitely had nothing on these. So let's get started talking about these and the info that I've come across through my own study, and I want to try and put a review out there for people around the world to actually, yeah, just get a bit more info on them. Right, well, yeah, let's start. As I was saying, let's compare this to the ip22 Blue Smart charger, which is probably the most common or the most commonly sold Victron separate charger. Now the Blue Smart charger, really good charger, but as I said, they only go to 30 amps and they do have a fan. They're not as robust, like for example their feet where you screw them into the wall are made of plastic, and I'll tell you what, they are easy to accidentally break. I did not screw my one up tightly at all and I broke the little feet quite easily and I had to sort of glue them back on. So yeah, that was a bit of a downer. And yeah, once again, my main gripe against them was, yeah, they are limited to 30 amps. Still, you know, fantastic charger and very easy to use. The one downer about the Blue Smart charger as well is they don't have the remote terminal or a built-in relay. Now that's a very handy feature, or both of those are a very handy feature to have. I'll get into that soon. I'm actually using both on my two ip43 chargers. Now, excuse me, in saying that though, I'm not bagging the ip22 charger. If all you want is just a nice simple charger, they're fantastic, and if you don't have a big battery bank, 30 amps is fine. Just remember the 20% rule. You can go as low as 10%, but the 20% rule is definitely the better option. So once you start getting over basically 130 amps, of, or amp hours of battery, you are starting to go past what the ip43 charger can do. So, alright, let's move right on to what I like about these particular chargers and the handy features that they have. Now, the first features I'm going to talk about is the remote terminal or remote relay, and their own relay that they have built in. So there's your remote terminal and there's your relay. Now for me it's particularly handy because I actually have two of these. This is the 120 volt 230 volt version of the ip43 charger. It's the latest of these. This is the top model as well. It's the 12 volt 50 amp free outputs, so it's the top model of the 12 volt. Now what's handy about the remote terminal is I also have another one of these. It's the 230 volt version. Everything else is the same. 12 volt 50 amp free outputs. So where the remote terminal is very handy is down here I have my Cerebro, and from its automatic start stop relay I have the wire feeding out of that, or the two little wires feeding out. You can see them, the white wires. Now they go over to my 230 volt ip43 charger and they turn on its remote. So I have set the parameters on my Cerebro to turn this on at 80% state of charge with my battery, and to hold it until it's 100% and it's been running for 3 minutes, or no, 15 minutes now, sorry. So that's all automatic. So now the next thing is as you can see, like the other one, it's got its own relay. So that also has two white wires coming out of it, and that comes up to here and hooks into where you can see the red heat shrink here, and then that wire goes all the way up to my other ip43 charger and powers it on. So both come on at pretty much the same time and both start charging. They're also both synced together via Bluetooth and also synced with all the solar chargers and the battery temperature Bluetooth sensor. So that's really cool. That's a really neat feature, and you don't get that with any of the other Victron chargers, I don't think. That Bluetooth syncing built in, the remote switch, maybe the other ones do have it, but I do know the ip22 charger doesn't have that. So the other thing that I have heard and read on forums is a lack of the ability to be able to see what these are doing on the Cerebro Touch 50 screen, or the Touch 50, or the Cerebro remote software. Now that's actually not entirely true. There is a simple fix for that, and that's simply download the GUI mods. Now once you've downloaded the GUI mods, you can actually see everything about what this charger and chargers are up to, and I'll quickly show you here on my Cerebro. So I'll bring you over to the Touch 50 and I'll hit it. Now I downloaded the GUI mods the other day, and I'd highly recommend it for anybody. So you touch this, the DC system, and here you go. Just trying to hold the phone steady here. Right, so in here you can see Tom's Fat Charger 1 and 2, and it's an AC charger, of course. And there goes your watts and your amps, and you can see that they're both off at the moment. What I'll do is I'll turn them on manually so you can actually see them working. Right, manual start. There we go. I've just turned them on, and I'm going to come back over to here. Right, so the first one's already on, and the second one will come on soon. There you go. Now I've got them just set to 15 amps each one. I only have the one lithium battery at the moment, so I don't need to really, you know, go any harder than that. So as you can see now though, both chargers are working. I can see that I'm getting 202 watts from the second charger and 14.6 amps, and with the first charger it's putting 15.3 amps in. It's on the bulk charge with both of them, so you know, I can see everything, and all it is just simply in the GUI mods, and after that all you got to do is just press the DC system. So whoops, it's hard to do that when you're recording as well. So there you go, it's perfectly usable on the Cerebro. It's just a matter of downloading that GUI mod. So if you have these chargers, be aware of that. They're really easy to get very good accurate readouts. I saw that on quite a number of forums. Oh, I can't get my Cerebro to give me an accurate readout on the front screen, and I've got to go into the menu and into the settings and blah 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 blah. Well, it's not hard to do this. I mean, okay, it's not on the front screen. You have to touch this one, but when you're not filming a video, it's not that hard. You just touch that and boom, you're in, and you can see what everything is doing. I accidentally bumped that instead. So nice and simple. Now the other thing I want to talk about is these versus the other Victron chargers on the market. So the Skylar and the Senator, both are good chargers, and you know, both are, what would you say, both are reputable chargers. They both earned their place. Now there is some buts with those. For example, these two chargers here were not cheap. This one here was $1,088 for me, and it's the latest one. It was built in, so that's the latest Victron AC charger, I believe. They were made in 2022 in September, so they're pretty much exactly 1 year old now. And then there's the 230 volt model, and the cheapest I could find that in New Zealand was $1 short of 1,000. And that was actually some hunting around for both of these chargers. Now usually in most stores the 230 volt one is selling for $1,280. I saw that as quite a common price. And this one here, the 120 230 volt version, they don't even seem to have them. They're actually quite uncommon here in New Zealand anyway. I went through Victron's representative here and bought this one through them. Otherwise I couldn't get hold of it. So there you go. Now, in saying that, so both these chargers cost me $2,087 to have both of them. That's the top model of the ip43 charger in both cases. Just one's the 230 volt and the other one's the 120 230 volt. Now the Skylar charger is a 70 amp at the top model, and the Skylar charger is cheaper than both of these, but once again, let's look at the pros and cons of the Skylar charger. First of all, the Skylar charger doesn't have Bluetooth built in, and the main way of controlling it is through the Cerbo. So if you have Victron gear, at least by default, the Skylar charger won't sync with all your other gear. So that's a bit of a pain, really. Now here in New Zealand, the top model Skylar charger is still $1,500, I think, at the cheapest. So that's a lot of money, and then you still got to either get a Bluetooth dongle. I'm not sure if you can hook a Bluetooth dongle onto them or not. Maybe you can, I'm not sure about that, but the thing I do know is you can hook them up to a Cerbo. But if you're just wanting a standalone charger, but you need to be able to fiddle with it in a place where you can't, so say you got it in a place where you can't access it and you need to be able to fiddle with it, the only way that you can do that, I believe, is to have the Cerbo and then have it hooked up to that, and that's an extra wad of cash. So by the time you've paid for the Cerbo, you've already increased it to the cost of more than both of these, I believe. And with both of these, you're getting the potential of 100 amps, not 70 amps. So, you know, that's something to think about. The other thing that's worth mentioning is basically these versus the Skylar, there's a weight factor and a footprint factor. So if you're getting two of these, they have a much smaller footprint, so you don't need to have one big area to put one big charger in. You can just get two smaller chargers and put them each in a smaller area, and that's kind of an advantage when you got a caravan or a boat. Like myself, I got a caravan, and it's way easier to have two of these chargers than one big Skylar. Because to give you an example, the Skylar charger would take up pretty much all of this area here, this white area on this panel. Excuse me, I'll just pick something up here. So that's a big thing to think about, and I believe the Skylar charger is, I think it's 8 kgs. I could be wrong, but I think it's 8 kgs. This one here is 2.7 kgs, so big difference there. The 230 volt version of this charger is 3.5 kgs, so heavier than this one, but still a big difference compared to the Skylar. Just a quick little side note too, in the online manuals with the 230 volt one, they're not accurate. I believe Victron needs to fix this. They are saying in the online manuals for the 230 volt charger, so I'll take you over to the 230 volt charger. They're saying in the Victron manual with these 230 volt chargers online, strictly online, that these are 2.7 kgs. That's not true. When you get the manual in the box with these chargers, they say 3.5 kgs. Now, it's only a technicality, but I found that a little confusing. So what I did is I got my mother's kitchen scales and I weighed this, and it's 3.5 kgs. Now then I brought the 120 120 230 volt version, and that is 2.7 kgs, like its manual states online. So when it comes to weight, and you're buying the 230 volt charger only, don't listen to the weight, or sorry, ignore the weight of the 230 volt charger as being 2.7 kgs. It's not. It's heavier. It's 3.5, and I've proved that by weighing that one, and then I weighed this one, and this was the 2.7 like the online manual says for this one, and the written manual. But the written manual for the 230 volt charger, it says 3.5. Its online one says 2.7. Don't know why, but that's a little error that Victron will need to fix at some point. Anyway, moving past that, comparing this to the Senator charger, so that's I believe that's Victron's biggest separate AC charger. Now you can buy the 12 volt 100 amp Senator charger. Once again though, no built-in Bluetooth, so to set it up, you either, if you need to buy the Bluetooth dongle or hook it up to a Cerebro. So that's a big thing to consider, and the Senator is actually dearer than both of these. So I know which one I'd rather, which ones I'd rather have, and that's two of these. You got all the modern tech, and you got the smaller footprint. So yeah, well that's the other thing I want to talk about with the Senator, is it's big. It's big and it's heavy. It's 12 kgs, and I think the 12 volt 100 amp version is just over half a meter in its length. So that wouldn't even fit in here. It takes a lot of room. And then you still, after spending all that money, you still got to buy, you know, a Bluetooth dongle if it can take it, which I wouldn't be surprised if it could, or a Cerebro, and that will give you the ability to adjust it. So once again, more money. And if you're just wanting a standalone charger which syncs with your other gear, once again these still got that licked. So this is why it's my belief that these are currently the best AC charger that is made by Victron. You can of course get the inverter chargers. They're very common now. I just didn't want to go down that route. I like to have my chargers and my inverters separate, that redundancy. So we'll move from that subject now to the 120 volt versus, sorry I just had to pick up this again. I want to move from that subject to the 120 volt versus, oh sorry, 120 230 volt versus strictly the 230 volt. There are actually some differences. One is, as I've already said, weight factor. This is 2.7 kgs, the 230 volt is 3.5 kgs. So if that's going to be a problem for you, weight, then this is definitely the lighter one. The other thing is this one is newer. So the 230 volt version was made in 2019, and this one was made in 2022. So it's considerably newer in its software and all of that jazz. The physical difference is this one is slightly bigger, so that's possibly a downside if you've got a tight area that you need to cram it in. So it's not much bigger though, it's not longer, and it's not what would you say, it's not longer and it's not wider, but its height. is slightly higher by 16 mils. So, you know, this measurement here, it's 16 mils extra in its height. Doesn't bother me because I've got a good area for this to go in, and I can still put quite a bit of stuff in this and still leave some breathing room for this. So doesn't bother me, but for some people that could be a bother. The other notable differences is in this one you can, through the software, turn this one on and off. There's a through the VE Direct software, so just over Bluetooth, there is a charger enabled tab, and you got a toggle where you can turn that on and off, whereas with the 230 volt charger you can't do that. It doesn't seem to be there, well, not that I've seen, and I have had a look. So yeah, once again, going back to physical differences, if you want to definitely make sure you got the 120 230 volt version, you need to look here. You'll see 85 volt to 265 volt, and also with the 120 230 volt version, you got the Bluetooth light up here. It's an actual light. The other one doesn't have that, and I'll show you soon. So I'll take you over here now. Right, so let's come down to the 230 volt version. It's a little bit trickier to get to, but see, no Bluetooth light. It does have the Bluetooth symbol to tell you that it's got Bluetooth, but there's no light on it that blinks. And with the voltage, see how it says 220 to 240. Okay, so that's your giveaways. Right, other than that, the real giveaway is to physically pick them both up. This one is definitely heavier. When you pick it up, it's like, whew, yeah, that's heavier. Now, coming to the conclusion of this video, I have to say my honest opinion is, right now these are definitely the best separate Victron AC chargers. I'll just wait for this ambulance to go past. Far out. People having crashes, it's not good. Jeez. Anyway, basically the reason why I say these are the best chargers is just drawing up comparisons. Fire engine. Oh, and police. Oh dear. Something bad's happened. Anyway, now getting back to what I was saying. Okay, let's compare these to all the other chargers quickly. The ip43 charger, it has Bluetooth and it can sync with all your solar chargers, so those are pluses, but it's limited to 30 amp for your 12 volt, and it also has a fan. So yeah, those are your cons. And it has plastic feet, which really annoyed me because I really don't think that I screwed them up that tight, and then the silly little plastic feet broke. That was frustrating. This is all, both of these are all solid aluminium construction, and you don't get broken feet. And yeah, they're just way more robust, and they are passive, so no fan, and they also can go to 50 amps with your 12 volt, so that's brilliant. And they have the Bluetooth built in that can sync with another one, or all your solar chargers, or your shunt, everything. So big pros there. So they're like a better version of the ip42 charger. The one downer is yeah, they are a lot more expensive. You can get an ip22 charger quite cheap. With the Skylar charger and the Senator charger, the pluses are with these: Bluetooth built in, passive once again, no fans. I believe the Skylar charger is passive though too. I might be wrong though, but the Senator charger definitely isn't. It's got fans. And I'll just wait for this ambulance to go past. Fire truck, sorry. And its footprint, it's smaller. So one of these is considerably smaller and lighter than the Skylar charger and the Senator charger. So if you have a restriction for space, these are awesome. And most people do have a restriction on space. So that's the other thing that's great. Now, the other big advantage that this charger has over the ip43 charger is, as I discussed before, the remote relay and then their own built-in relay. So these can be turned on and off remotely, and they can also basically have a string from their own relay going to another one of these chargers' remote relays, or remote switches, sorry. So that's cool, because when you're like me and you have two of them, it's great to have the ability for them both to come on at the same time, and no more worries. You don't need to worry about turning them on and off at the wall, or turning them on and off via anything. You just have it remotely hooked up, and then you can have, well, if you don't have the servo, you can have a little physical switch to turn on the first one, and then the first one will still turn on the other one on its own. Otherwise, what I do is I got the servo, and I just have a remote start-stop relay, which is built into the servo, and it turns these on and off. Now, having said that, if you don't have the servo but you want a way of turning these on via state of charge, at least you still have that remote switch that you can set up your own relay to turn it on and off at your set parameters with whatever else you want to use. Maybe you could use a what do you call it? Victron makes them, but I'm pretty certain other companies make them. You could possibly use a battery cutoff, and a lot of them have a remote wire and a relay, a remote switch and a relay of their own, which you could then use to power this on and off automatically. Otherwise, I suppose if you're clever enough, you could easily make your own thing quite cheap. But all of that's advantages that these chargers have over the other ones, although over the ip43. So yeah, that's my argument for these chargers. For now, they are definitely, in my opinion, the best Victron separate AC charger. So if you want to go down that road and you don't want to have a multi-plus, you just want to have an inverter and a charger, you know, separate from each other, to me these are definitely the best way to go. Oh, the other very quick thing I'll talk about before I conclude is, one cool thing about these two is they are made for marine use. There is a separate earth screw here, and I believe that's there for when you are on a boat and you want to earth it separately. So just something to think about. Okay then, if you have any further questions, please feel free to ask and I'll try and answer them. Thank you very much. I hope this was helpful. Bye.